right, it is the 5th day of June. Thank you so much for joining us here on TV47 Daily Report. Tonight, we have all the stories that are making headlines across the country. And later on, we're going to be crunching numbers in the budget. But first, the highlights. Tonight, a family is emboldened in their cry for justice for their dead kin after an autopsy reveals evidence of a beating, a far cry from the police's version of events that pointed to a suicide.
Ati amejinyonga, tena polisi naye pia anatuambia ati ni mob justice. Najua tuelewi.
Also tonight, tensions and emotions remain high as stakeholders chew into the intoxicating matter of Muguka.
We're not trying to demonize before we have the full facts, particularly scientific facts.
And despite the government's assurances of new supplies, a critical shortage of vaccines for babies persists.
Tuko na vaccines kama 4 hivi ambazo hatujapokea kwa muda wa sasa miezi miwili.
All right, welcome once again to this live broadcast. My name is Hibaq Said, and on sign language interpretation tonight is Roda Nyamai. Let's start. The family of a 25-year-old man from Kawangware who is alleged to have died by suicide in a police cell is now demanding justice over what they say was a police cover-up. Before his death, the man had been arrested and detained at the Kawangware police station following an altercation at a local car wash. An autopsy was conducted earlier today to determine the cause of death.
This was the somber mood Shingal family and friends of the late Hussein Bacha at the Nairobi City mortuary earlier today. Yesterday, tensions were high at Kawangware as residents protested the death of the 25-year-old who died at Kawangware police station.
Yani tuone mwili yetu ya ndugu yangu akiwa live. Walikataa inspector mwenyewe, chief mwenyewe walikataa tuone ndugu yangu akiwa live.
According to police reports, the late Bacho is alleged to have died by suicide moments after he was detained following his arrest after an altercation with an acquaintance at his workplace. However, the family maintains that there was foul play under police custody.
Kitendeke kitu ya kwanza. Juu mimi naona tu ni hao ndo alimuua ndugu yangu. Inspector ndo alifanya hiyo kitendo kumuua ndugu yangu.
And even as the autopsy examination fails to reveal a clear cause of death of the deceased, the pathologist, Dr. Charles Muturi, reveals that the man's body showed signs of strangulation and bodily injuries that could probably be caused by a beating meted out by several people. The pathologist, however, maintains that they will analyze more circumstantial evidence in order to come to a firm conclusion on the real cause of death.
Ndugu yangu ati ajiue. Yeye naye Inspector alinidanganya.
The family is now demanding justice with the late Bacho laid to rest today at his home. Vera Alberta, TV47.
Thank you, Vera. The shortage of childhood vaccines continues to affect hospitals across the country despite the Ministry of Health on Wednesday announcing the arrival of new supplies. Even so, the government has announced key steps to resolve the crisis and improve vaccine accessibility nationwide, as Ann Odinga now reports.
A spot check by TV47 has found that several hospitals are still lacking certain childhood immunization vaccines due to a prolonged shortage of the jabs. Kisumu County, for instance, is scheduled to receive these vaccines starting next week.
So, tuko na vaccines kama 4 hivi ambazo hatujapokea kwa muda wa sasa miezi miwili. Tuko na BCG vaccine, OPV ya rotavirus na vaccine ya tetanus tuweza kupokea kwa kipindi cha miezi miwili.
Hapa hospitalini mwetu kweli tumekosa chanjo. Sisi kama wamama tunalia sana. Wakati mtoto akikosa hizo chanjo zote, akipooza ataleta gharama maishani.
Kwa kwetu tumekuwa tukipata tu chanjo vizuri, lakini kwa hivi karibuni ndivyo tumekuwa na stock out ya chanjo ya BCG ambayo huwa inazuia watoto kutokana na ugonjwa wa tuberculosis.
Nimeweza kupata chanjo zote lakini sasa ile ya miezi 9 bado nangoja.
This situation persists despite the Ministry of Health's announcement on Wednesday about the distribution of 1.2 million doses of measles rubella vaccines, 3 million doses of oral polio vaccines, 1 million doses of tetanus diphtheria vaccines, and 3.1 doses of BCG vaccines set to arrive to the 9 regional vaccine stores across the country. The Ministry of Health had attributed the shortage to a 3.6 billion debt owed to Gavi and UNICEF, and in its latest report, the ministry has revealed an allocation of 1.25 billion Kenya shillings to urgently procure routine childhood vaccines, which is yet to arrive at the county hospitals. This comes at a time when President William Ruto has announced that the country has formally joined the International Vaccine Institute as a member state, reinforcing its commitment to advancing vaccine accessibility domestically.
The partnership and collaboration, whose successful culmination we are witnessing here today, will guarantee sustainable self-sufficiency in the supply of these commodities as we make our health provision in Kenya a truly bottom-up affair.
Ann Odinga, TV47.
Thank you, Anne. Tomorrow, the future of Muguka in the 2 coastal counties where it is banned shall be decided. This is as the government is set to broker talks between the leadership of Muguka growing areas and the dissenting counties. Ruga Eval tells us more.
The confusion around the Muguka ban takes a new turn with the Office of the President, Ministry of Agriculture and the 2 county governments of Embu and Mombasa expected to convene a forum to discuss the future of Muguka.
Minister wa Agriculture, Mheshimiwa Linturi ametuita Thursday. Sisi viongozi wa county ambazo zinakuza miraa na Muguka na wale ambao wanaleta shida huko coast.
Tomorrow come to Mansoni. God willing, I'm addressing that matter tomorrow.
Part of the agenda of the day would be the implementation of Miraa Muguka regulations the year 2023. This regulation providing a standard practice on the farming, transportation, selling and export of the crop.
Governor Nasil obey court orders.
Additionally, the forum tomorrow is seen as one that will bridge the rift between leaders of the Muguka growing areas and those that have banned the herbal stimulant.
Hakuna Muguka kuingia katika county ya Mombasa, period.
Tunajua Muguka sio dawa ya kulevya. Ile ambayo inaharibu watoto wa Mombasa na coast ni kwamba wanakula Muguka na wanaongeza cocaine na heroin.
Different leaders across the country continue to weigh in on the ban.
Let's not try to demonize. Let's not try to demonize before we have the full facts, particularly scientific facts on certain issues.
The government had committed to allocating 500 million Kenyan shillings in the financial year 2024-2025 for value addition of these crops. Now, all eyes set on the stakeholders, whether they will settle this tiff and the once booming sale of the green gold in Mombasa and Kilifi counties continues. Ruga Ival, TV47.
And the debate continues. Thank you, Ruga, for that report. The Institute of Engineers of Kenya has opposed some provisions of the Finance Bill 2024 on the belief that they will make the already bad economic situation worse. Appearing before the Finance and National Planning Committee this afternoon, IEK President Shama Kiteme said removal of the tax exemptions for the manufacturing and construction sectors will likely deter investments in manufacturing, plastic recycling, and the construction of specialized hospitals. And as Mike Kagwongo reports, the Anglican Archbishop Jackson Ole Sapit called on the government to rethink in its taxation system, highlighting how it was killing the aspirations of Kenyans.
Honorable members.
The Institute of Engineers of Kenya has decried restrictions of VAT exemptions on specialized equipment, highlighting that this may hinder the acquisition of essential equipment during critical stages of project development.
We focus also on the issue of taxes being imposed on the housing fund and we have had a conversation with MPs that, in our view, this is going to suppress the construction industry. We are also encouraging taxes being imposed on construction materials to be waived.
Appearing before the Molo MP Kuria Kimani-led Finance and National Planning Committee on Wednesday, the engineers body said the introduction of incentives for the e-mobility sector in 2023 was intended to encourage the use of renewable energy in transportation, and removing them contradicted with government's green energy agenda.
And we feel that they need to be tax exempted so that we can continue encouraging movement towards green energy and stopping the use of carbon or reducing carbon footprint, because we know we are working towards removing carbon in the atmosphere.
The government was urged to reconsider its tax structure by Anglican Archbishop Jackson Ole Sapit, who pointed out that it was Stephen Kenyon's ambitions. According to Sapit, taxing bread, M-Pesa and motor vehicle taxis will exacerbate Kenyans' current state of suffering.
Like unleavened bread, which is purely for Holy Communion, it's not something you can eat and get satisfied, or altar wine. I think this you must now help us.
The committee chairperson Kuria Kimani said involved experts will consider common mwananchi in their decision-making process before presenting the proposed bill to Parliament.
We have our people first, become Kenya first, so that if there's going to be, if there should be preferential treatment, then it should be for Kenyan enterprises first, so that they become competitive in our country, and we create jobs and create manufacturing here and support our own.
With public participation ending next week, the committee is expected to retire and write a report before presenting it in Parliament, where it will be scrutinized, voted in or out for specific clauses of the Finance Bill 2024. Mike Kagwango, TV47, Nairobi.
Mike Agongo there with that report. Thank you so much. Tonight, the government has announced it will formally submit Azimio coalition leader Raila Odinga's candidacy by the end of this month in readiness for a 6-month campaign that will be launched by President William Ruto. During a press briefing today, Foreign Affairs Cabinet Secretary Musalia Mudavadi said the government is firming up the application documents that will be translated into 6 African Union languages. The Joint Secretariat to spearhead the campaign will be led by distinguished names in the diplomatic circles. Apollo Kamau tells us more.
It is the first formal endorsement by the government of Kenya of Azimio leader Raila Odinga's candidacy for the position of the chair of the African Union Commission. In this monumental step, the government has crossed the Rubicon by announcing that it will submit the papers for his candidacy by June 30th, a month before the August 6th deadline, as the journey to launch a formidable campaign on the road to Addis kicks off in earnest.
The campaigns are led by the state with highly experienced and knowledgeable officers. The State Department for Foreign Affairs has established a campaign secretariat which includes the candidates' strategy team.
I have been very encouraged by the number of senior government officials offering to be part of this journey out of an understanding that we are in this as Kenya and not as partisan political parties. I appreciate the offer of support.
After the August 6th deadline, a joint campaign secretariat made up of experienced ambassadors, strategists, and foreign affairs officials will be unveiled by President William Ruto. Mudavadi's railway office will serve as the interim secretariat.
I was myself pleasantly surprised that Kenya government said they will support me. I was expecting them to say no. I don't know the reason why they said yes. That is their own decision, it's not mine.
We said yes because Raila is competent. Yes. And we are looking at Kenya's national interests and Africa's national interests.
Among those expected in Odinga's strategy team are Ambassadors Elkanah Odembo, Mahabub Maalim, former Nyeri Deputy Governor Dr. Caroline Karugu, Anthony Okara, and Professor Makau Mutua. Odinga, who previously served as the AU top envoy on infrastructure in the continent, does not have a clear path to the chairmanship, as Djibouti, Somalia, and Seychelles have also nominated candidates. The entry of Djibouti in particular is believed to divide the East African bloc. Odinga will be facing off with Somalia's Fawzia Yusuf, Djibouti's Mohamed Ali Yusuf, and Seychelles' former Vice President Vincent Meriton. Apul Kamau, TV47.
Thank you, Apollo. A section of leaders have hit at Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua for what they termed as his promotion of tribal politics. The latest salvo at Rigathi once again bringing to the fore the simmering cracks within the ruling UDA party. George Maringa reports.
In yet another display of the infighting that has caused some to liken the ruling coalition to the Tower of Babel, a section of senior leaders have taken a swipe at Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua. Led by Prime Cabinet Secretary Musalia Mudavadi, leader of majority in the National Assembly Kimani Ichung'wah, and President Ruto's aide Farouk Kibet, the leaders pointed an accusing finger at the seemingly embattled DP, saying leaders should be at the forefront in uniting the country.
The President and his cabinet are the first point of call in understanding the challenges that Kenya is facing. Kwa hivyo, as cabinet, we should be the last ones to contradict the direction the president is giving, because we are privy to the challenges that the country is facing.
Kufanya kazi kutoka constituency nyingine mpaka nyingine. Na sisi tumewauliza, unity ya nchi ni muhimu sana kuliko mtu binafsi. Mtu ambaye anajitakia makuu, wacha hao wabaki, waje watuulize kura siku za mwisho. Hao wabunge ambaye wanafanya kazi ya taifa kuunganisha wa Kenya, sisi wakaaji hapa tunawapongeza.
We want to unite all the people of Kenya. If you want to lead the people of Kenya, have a plan like our president has a plan for this country. Have an ideology that you can marshal and garner the people of Kenya to follow your ideology. But ideologies of division, ethnic balkanization, personality worship cults, that is politics of the past and overtaken by time, overtaken by generations, because that is politics that belong to past generations.
MPs drawn from the Mount Kenya region did not mince their words, claiming that some leaders were still pushing for tribalism in Kenya.
Kufika hapa sio kimakosa. Tumefika hapa juu tunaangalia ile mwelekeo His Excellency William Ruto anatupeleka nayo. Ni kiongozi ambaye anapenda nchi ya Kenya kama kitu kimoja. Ni kiongozi ambaye ametuonyesha tushikane na tupendane na tutoe ukabila katika hii nchi.
By the time tunafika 2022, mlima tayari ilikuwa kwa mfuko ya William Samoei Ruto. Na kwa hivyo itakuwa ni makosa mtu akikaa hivi anasema ati mimi nilikuletea mlima. Hakuna mlima ililetwa. Mlima ilikuwa kwa William, ilikuwa na William, na ndio maana akapata uongozi ambao amepata.
That where there is unity, God commands a blessing. Kwa hivyo kama taifa lazima tuungane na tuwe kitu kimoja. Lazima tukatae kuambiwa maneno haya na haya ndio tukue na maneno mingi.
The leaders were speaking in Mosop, Nandi County on Wednesday during a Thanksgiving ceremony at St. John Paul II Chapter Y Girls Secondary School. George Maringa, TV47.
Thank you, George. A Nairobi court has withdrawn criminal charges, against Embakasi East Member of Parliament Babu Owino and his 6 co-accused. This follows an application by the Director of Public Prosecution, Renson Ingonga, to have the charges against the Member of Parliament dropped following the High Court's decision that declared the provisions under which they were charged unconstitutional. Owino was charged with 2 counts of subversion and uttering abusive words against former President Uhuru Kenyatta last year.
And based on that decision, the application made by the prosecution is merited. The case is therefore terminated under Section 87A of the Criminal Procedure Code. Cash bail deposited to be released to the respective depositors.
Tuliweza kueleza mahakama kwamba vipengele ambavyo wanajaribu kutumia kumshika na kumshtaki ni vipengele ambavyo vilikuwa vinatumiwa na wabeberu wa koloni ili kunyanyasa wa Afrika.
This is a win for Kenyans. This is a win that shows that nobody else will ever be charged with subversion.
Mimi nataka niambie bado hii serikali ya kwamba hata hiyo pesa ambayo tulipeana cash bill yetu ni wakina babu wangewacha kwa sababu anytime.
Now, the election of the directors of 54 smallholder tea factories under the Kenya Tea Development Agency, KTDA, will be conducted on the 28th of this month. With the announcement, the stage is now set for intensive campaigns by the aspirants eyeing the director's seat in the tea factories. In a deal orchestrated by the Ministry of Agriculture and Livestock Development and the Tea Board of Kenya, TBK, the voting exercise will follow the board's election manual, which requires candidates to have O-level certificates and be farmers who have delivered tea to their respective factories. Now, the elections follow an out-of-court settlement and a court degree addressing petitions that challenged the provisions of the Tea Act and the legitimacy of the current directors. Over 600,000 tea farmers will participate in the elections across the 7 tea-growing regions.
We have elections for KTDA managed factories on the 28th of June. So we want to assure the farmers of this country that our resolve is to facilitate a free and fair election for the will of the farmers, of the owners, of the shareholders of these factories is represented through the election that we expect to be done by on the 28th of June. And to demonstrate this, we have agreed by consensus that the election will be conducted by the Independent Electoral Boundaries Commission because of their history of conducting free, transparent elections.
The National Council for Population Development, NCPD, now says that it is important for the country to have a harmonized direction to address population and development agenda. The council says it is important to note key factors in ensuring citizens receive solutions to challenges and issues, especially in health and planning. The NCPD is expected to launch a population policy which will help in ensuring a healthy and informed population.
Again, this population policy is going to look at issues of mobility and mortality. What are the major causes of mobility and mortality in our country? This population is also going to look at population, human settlement, environment, and disaster, because we should do with climate change. So we're going to look at how people are settling, urbanization, movement of people from rural to urban, urban to rural, rural to rural. So we're going to look at those issues in this document. The other one is about mobility, migration, and urbanization, and then also issues to do with fertility. Some of these things, there are 3 things that